Well, if you have been following the Karen Reed case, and definitely if you've been providing coverage or analysis or commentary on the Karen Reed case, you no doubt have seen the term grifter being thrown around. Maybe you were called a grifter. Maybe you called somebody else a grifter. Maybe you just saw the term being thrown around, and maybe it caused you pause to think, where did this term come from? And what is the framework? What's the standard? What's the methodology in determining whether someone actually fits into the description, definition, and category of a grifter? So I did this. I took this seriously. I looked through history, and I did not see that anybody ever provided a framework to determine whether someone is actually a grifter or not. So therefore, I took it upon myself. I went to the lab. I did a lot of research. It was all peer reviewed. And now this is the standard. I've developed a standard, a methodology in determining whether someone actually fits into being a grifter or not. And the reason why I took this so seriously is because I myself was accused of being a grifter. And therefore, I really wanted to learn it and understand it and do some introspection and some soul searching. And maybe I can then figure out what my faults are and be able to work on them. After all, we always trying to work on ourselves to make ourselves better. So I went to the lab. I developed this framework. I developed this 10 easy questions, which have all been peer reviewed. It's all been already accepted in the legal community, the medical community, the scientific community, that this is the 10 ways, the 10 questions you have to ask yourself. And in fact, this is so monumental that, think about it. It could be that someone down the road could be using this research that I've been doing now to be authorized to be an expert on this topic. That's exactly what we're doing right now. We're really literally creating history right now in the making. So I'm going to share with you these 10 questions that you have to ask yourself. And these are the questions that I had to ask myself as well, because I have been accused of being a grifter. Maybe I am. And if I am, then how are we going to fix it? How am I going to uproot my inner grifterness? So this is a serious topic, and that's why I took it so seriously. And I've developed these 10 questions. And don't worry, if the answer to these questions are mostly yes for you, and you exhibit these 10 signs, I'm going to help you also to be able to uproot your inner grifterness. So here we go. Let's pull it up. I put together a little presentation for you so that we can all go through this together very simply. So you have to ask yourself a number of questions. Okay, question number 1. Do you cover other cases besides Karen Reed? And this is an important question, because if you just created a channel just devoted to Karen Reed, then you may think that that has some sort of effect on your coverage. And maybe you're just going to be saying things to quote unquote grift. So you have to first ask the first question, is this channel devoted just to Karen Reed? And I answered this question that my channel is not just devoted to Karen Reed. My channel is devoted to a number of different cases. Just to give you a little bit of a snippet of the different cases that I've covered over the past year alongside Karen Reed, we've covered Donna Adelson, Charlie Adelson, Jennifer Crumbly, James Crumbly, Jay-Z, Sarah Boone, Ashley Benefield, Brian Koberger, Courtney Clenny, Alex Murdoch, Meghan Markle. And that's just to name a few. There's been other ones that I've also covered. So initially I thought, that would actually weigh in the favor of me being a non-grifter. But after much introspection and much soul searching, I realized just the opposite is true. And that's why this exercise is so important. I realized that because I cover so many other cases besides the Karen Reed case, that actually would make me more of a grifter. And all these people are really right. And therefore, it really helped me going through this exercise. So that's how you go about question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2. What facts and evidence do you rely on before coming to your opinion? Well, I know that one of my faults is that I rely on the facts and evidence that I see during trial. I think that that's the most credible evidence and facts that we can rely on, and that therefore base our opinions. Why? Because it has to undergo a certain process, and it has under the scrutiny of cross-examination, and there's certain rules of evidence and rules of criminal procedure that everything has to be followed in order for that evidence and those facts to be presented to a jury. And therefore, that's where I get 99% of my information of when I'm talking to you and sharing my opinion. Now, other people, have other sources, and they get some of their information from journalists and from articles and from magazines and from secret interviews and experts who are coming that we're not testifying during trial. But what I base my opinions on is just the facts and evidence I see in trial. And again, I realized that is one of my faults. I realize that that's a problem. And that actually puts me, again, much more in the camp of a grifter as opposed to someone who is not a grifter. So again, question number 2, I completely failed on, and it's something that I have to work on. And we're going to talk about all the work after we go through all the questions. All right, let's get on to question number 3. Question number 3. Do you only point out strengths and weaknesses of one side? And this is also a very important question in order to get to this ultimate question of whether you suffer from being a grifter. And if somebody only points out the strengths of the Karen Reed side and only points out the weaknesses of the Commonwealth side, well, then you may think that person maybe is a grifter. But let's say you have a person that points out the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. So this is a question that I struggled with also, because I know that I do that. I actually point out the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. But then I realized that actually also paints me as a grifter as opposed to a non-grifter. And all these people that were calling me grifters are really true. So they're really right. And I have to stop pointing out the strengths and weaknesses of both sides of the case. Okay, so let's move on. That's question number 3. Let's move on to question number 4. Do you offer to discuss or debate your opinions? Meaning, if you want to just talk to an echo chamber and only talk to the people that are on your side, so that also kind of would put you into one type of category. But I have opened up, definitely to other lawyers who disagree with my opinion, who have watched the trial and maybe did other types of research than I did. If anybody wants to discuss it, let's have an open and transparent and fair, respectful conversation about it. So I've offered that. So that's something that, again, I'm guilty of. And again, this is very counterintuitive. You may think that if you offer to discuss your opinion, that means that you're less of a grifter, but actually the opposite is true. The opposite is true. And I know it's maybe a little bit difficult for you on the first time around to believe this, but if you spend some time about this, you sit in the dark room and you put some soft music on, you will come to the same realization that I have, that offering to discuss your opinion and debate your opinions is actually much more of a grifter than a non-grifter. Okay, you're just gonna have to trust me on this. There's been a lot of research that I did on this, and this is just how it comes out. And sometimes there's a list of exhaustive factors or a list of non-exhaustive factors. Sometimes the court will give you a list of factors, and they'll say this is non-exhaustive, meaning there's other factors and other questions that you can really consider. Well, in this research, I'm telling you, I went through all of the possibilities, and this is the list. This is not a non-exhaustive list. Okay, so just understand that these are the 10 questions you have to answer. And if you answer them the way that I am, then unfortunately you actually may be a grifter. But don't worry, we're going to help you at the end of this how to uproot this inner grifterness. All right, so let's move on to question number 5. How much do you embrace the conspiracy? Now, we know that this is a very important point because it seems like a lot of people, either they side with the Commonwealth and say that Karen Reed absolutely hit him with the car and point to all the evidence that shows that. And then you have people on the other side that are embracing the conspiracy and saying, no, this is absolutely conspiracy, 100%, no questions asked. And my opinion on this channel has been, based on the evidence that I've saw, is that simply the Commonwealth did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. However, I'm still not ready 100% to embrace this conspiracy. Yes, I know that there's a lot of coincidences. I went through a lot of them in a different video. And yeah, there's butt dials and there's butt answers and there's cell phones that are being deleted and destroyed. And yep, I understand that there's a lot of questions that we don't really have the answer to. But I'm not completely 100% on board with the conspiracy. That has always been my position. And again, at the same point, I don't think that the Commonwealth met their burden. Now, you may think that position is a non-grifting position, but the more that you think about it, trust me about this, the more you think about this, the more you realize that that's actually a grifter position. So let's just understand that. Let's move on to question number 6. Do you research the law and show your research to base your opinion on? And this is a quite important question, meaning you may just want to pander to a certain side because you're grifting. So therefore, you're not going to show the research. You're not actually going to research. You're just going to say things that people are just going to want to believe on that side. And that way you'll be able to grift better. So number 1, do you research? And number 2, do you actually show your research to people to base your opinions on? And that's, again, something that I am guilty of, that I actually do research the law. I don't just tell you to believe me because I'm a lawyer and because I have experience and specialized training or knowledge, whatever. I actually research the law and I show you what I found in the law and why I'm basing my opinions based on what the law provides. So again, you may think, your knee-jerk reaction here may be that this is actually a non-grifting position, but the truth is, if you really think about it, it's much more of a grifting position to show the research of the law, to bring citations to the authority and show everybody why you base your opinion. The way you came to your opinion was based on certain case law. Okay, that's question number 6. Let's move on to question number 7. Do you have any experience in court that you rely on? So, if you just get up there and start saying, yeah, I believe this and that and the other thing, but you never really had experience in court, you never really tried any cases, never really argued in court, and, you're going to just start saying opinions of what you think the judge is going to do or what you think it's fair or not fair. So, sometimes you can think that experience in court is actually going to help you give a knowledgeable opinion about something. And this is, again, a fault of mine. It's a big fault, and I'm acknowledging my fault, and I'm being very open about the fault, that I do have experience arguing motions and arguing things in court and writing briefs and trial work. So I do have experience in that. And therefore, again, you may think that therefore I'm pulling from my experience and then being more in the category of a non-grifter, but actually the truth is the opposite, that this having experience in court that you rely on is actually much more of an indication that you are a grifter. Okay, so this is something that I've also come to realize through the numerous hours of research that I've done on this topic. Moving on to question number 8. Do you care more about burdens of proof, legal standards, or emotions? And this is important again. Are you just trying to play on people's emotions? Are you trying to use what people are excited about in order to just, further on their argument in that way, and that way you can grift better? Or are you just talking simply about burdens of proof and bringing your proofs based on legal standards? So how are you presenting your arguments? And again, one of my faults is that I don't really care so much about the emotions. I don't deal with the emotions. I just talk about what I'm seeing and through the lenses of the burdens of proof and the legal standards and the relevant case law, and what therefore I base my opinions on, not emotions. And again, you may think that that's more of a non-grifting position, but again, like always, the truth is the opposite. That really, if you care more and explain more about the burdens of proof and legal standards, and that's what you're using to come to your conclusions and opinions, that actually puts you much more in the grifting position as opposed to the category, as opposed to the non-grifting category. All right, let's move on to question number 9. Do you have any connection to the defense team or Commonwealth? That may be a reason why you may want to grift towards one side or the other, because you have some sort of connection to them. Well, the truth is, and I'm happy to say this under oath also, that I do not have any connection to the defense team or the Commonwealth. No one has reached out to me. No one has emailed me. No one has called me, and I don't have any sort of connection with them. It could be that they're watching my videos. Like I always say, if they're smart, they would be. But, I don't have any direct connection. And again, you may think that by not having a connection, that would put you in the category of a non-grifter. But again, the truth is the opposite. That actually makes you more of a grifter than just someone being objective and sharing their information with you. Let's move on to finally question number 10. And this is a little bit embarrassing, but I got to say it because this is part of the research. So I have to say it. Have you made more than minimum wage covering the case? And sadly and embarrassingly, I have to acknowledge that I have not. If you look at all the hours that I put into the case, watching the case and presenting what I've learned and the research that I've done and presented it all to you, if you put all those hours together, I have not even made more than minimum wage doing this. So again, you may think that because I haven't made that much money, minimum wage, that therefore that would lean more in the direction of not being a grifter. But again, the truth is the opposite. That even though I haven't made as much of minimum wage compared to all the hours that I've worked, but it's still a reason for me to be grifting. So these are the 10 questions. And again, I think that you should take these very seriously. You should go into a room, a dark room. Don't have your cell phone with you. Don't have any distractions. Think about each question carefully. And I would spend a lot of time thinking about each question. And once you're able to answer each of these questions, you'll be able to then determine whether you actually are grifting or you're just reporting, giving objective analysis. So these are important questions. Now, once you do realize that you may be a grifter, once you realize that, so then this is what you have to do. The first thing that you have to do in order to uproot your inner grifterness, what you have to do first is acknowledge it. Obviously, you have to acknowledge that you have this malady. You have to acknowledge that you have this diagnosis, that you are a grifter. So let's all say it together. Ready? I am a grifter. Now, doesn't that feel better already? You already feel better. Just acknowledging it helps you to the first step. And then the second step would be, listen very carefully. The second step is to go through each of these questions backwards. Go again, not directly backwards. You can go through take any question that you want at a time. And that's the question that you maybe struggled with, and try to change your approach. If you try to use facts and evidence only that you saw in court, well, then you have to start branching out and using more information from journalists and from shows and from experts that no one's heard of or that appear on other shows. That's what you have to do in order to uproot this grifterness. Okay, I'm just telling you. So you go through each question individually, and then hopefully you'll be able to completely uproot this whole grifterness from you. You won't be a grifter anymore, and then you'll be able to join the rest of society as just a regular person who's able to think about this case objectively. So that is going to be it for today. I hope this was very helpful. I think this is, again, monumental. I think this is history in the making. Who knows how many experts are going to be referring to this research that we've done, this peer-reviewed research that we've done that's been already accepted in the legal community and the medical community and the scientific community. So who knows? This is going to be a very monumental day today. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to mark this day in your calendar. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, and we will see you next time.